fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got tracks and he's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
One small step is what everybody looks at when it comes to a qualifying series. They know that they've just got to go one small step at a time. In 2019, we saw the biggest prize pool jump in iRacing history. We saw this go 500% more than it was just a season ago. And when it comes to these style of vehicles, they know every single driver that's racing up and down the splits, they have one goal in mind: be one of the top 20 and book your place back into folklore, into that Porsche Supercup. And they know that they've got to get up through this official iRacing series, the Porsche iRacing Cup here, the Porsche Esports Supercup series here with SimSpeed TV, and of course broadcast on the iRacing Esports Network. Thanks, of course, to iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. But it is Jake Sperry here in the commentary box, joined alongside by Jay Kennedy as we get ourselves ready for the first round of this season. And of course, you have to start at a place where Sir Jackie said that this was the green hell. It was, it is, and it forever will be. All of the names, all of the drivers looking to try and push themselves up to the very, very top here at the moment. Couple of minutes before we get ourselves going for racing. But Jay, we have to talk about this schedule because it is a big schedule to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, hello everyone. It's going to be a huge season. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out, but a really mixed up group of tracks. It's going to be interesting to see how drivers adapt to the different types of circuits throughout the season as well. Of course, Nurburgring, and then we go to tracks like Belle Isle, Charlotte, which are going to have the big curbs, and then you've got Lime Rock Park with the rescan, so it'll be a totally different sort of circuit as well. A lot of American circuits, but then you go to the likes of Zandvoort, Barcelona, tracks like that, they're going to be really interesting as well. And then finish it off at Road America in 12 weeks' time. It's going to be an awesome season. Only 20 spots up for grabs. We're going to see some great racing throughout these next 12 weeks.
And it's a who's who of drivers here today from all across the European, Americas, and of course the Australian scene. You can talk about all these drivers as being some of the best that you can find. Highest on iRating going into this one is the #1 machine. Of course, they are going to be rated on their iRating capabilities. And of course, Alex Arana finds himself at the top of that. You look and you see drivers like Coanda's Mac Backham. You got Peter Berryman out there who's trying to do his level best in terms of trying to put together a good bit of work. You got likes of the Altus drivers. Alexander Larrickson is one of those. Josh Thompson in the #10 car has recently just jumped teams. He'll be someone to keep an eye out on for how this is going to go. But it is only going to be 3 laps worth of racing here today at this long Gesamtsrecke layout. It's just a shade under 26 kilometers. It's 169 turns of pure driving heaven, and 7 minutes of practice expires on the clock. We will take you over to this starting grid for this 22-car dash of 3 laps here around this Nurburgring track. This is the race that everyone wanted to be in. This is the race that everyone wanted to be at the highest level possible. And this is how they stacked up in qualifying. It is Peter Berryman who will be on the pole position. Mac Backham will be alongside. Then it's Gianni Vecchio in 3rd position. Ricardo Castroledo will start alongside. Matti Kaidasoya will start from 5th with Josh Anderson in 6th, the Australian. There's Alex Arana starting from 7th. Marin Cholak, the former driver, starting from 8th. Christopher Dambeach, good qualifying for him, up in 9th place. And it's Julian Rodriguez who rounds out the top 10. Looking down the field, Dominic Stabe starting from 11th. Kim Eriksson from 12th. Then it's Niels Koch and Alvaro Romero, 13th and 14th on row 7. Row 8 is Joni Heikkinen. And then Paschalis Kyrgyz there in 16th. Apologies for butchering of the name there, Pash. Adria Perez starts 17th. Alexander Larrickson will go from 18th. Row 10 is Carly Janssen and Eero Tuominen. And then you got Jeff Giassi and Josh Thompson making the 22, looking to get themselves up on the starting grid. We said it's 3 laps. We said it's a long lap around here, so this is going to be tough. There's the green flag, and they get themselves underway. How will new tyre model version 7 play into factors as Mac Backham gets the good start? Berryman could not cover the move down the inside for Apex as the Coanda cars all file themselves into this big Yokohama section for the first time in the arena. We've got a spinner already. It looks like it's one of the pure racing cars. Another car spins around in the background. I think it's Vecchio who's gone around. Dominic Stabe is one that struggled for Williams, and back across the track goes another vehicle. It's Jurgis there who's run himself into issues. Thompson around as well as Carl Janssen in the core car, and that's not a good start. It's a dirty start for drivers, but not for those at the front. They've got a good breakaway. It's Apex Coanda.
A good start at the front of the field, but yeah, some big names
no.
out. Oh no.
It's Anderson who's gone around for Alderson. In fact, it's 2 cars because I think one of the Williams cars has gone around as well at the same point down at the full curve. So that's 2 that's gone around. It's Alex Arana who's turned himself around. So 2 more struggling. And this is what the new tyre model was always going to do. You've got to nurse the first couple of corners in these style of Porsches. Another vehicle goes off now, and that's down all the way at the hairpin. That's Eero Tuominen.
The new tyre model definitely taking some casualties in this race. You need to really limp the car in the early stages to get the heat in the tyres. If you don't get the heat in the tyres early, you will struggle, and we're seeing that right now. Arana, Stabe and Gerges all out of this race already. Big casualties early on.
Big casualties, and you can't afford casualties in this series. We know that this is scored on strength of field. This style of racing, you've got to be up there at your level best, and they know they need to. The big issue is it's morning conditions as well. It's 7:22 in sim time as they head through the BES chicane as they look to try and make their way over onto the Nordschleife for the first time out of 3, and this is the true test that these drivers are going to get. But cold weather conditions, cold temperatures, morning times. This is going to be tough here for drivers to get the tyres up to temp. They've got to be out there at their best. And from what we've heard from drivers, this track is only going to get quicker and quicker. So they've got to be absolutely on it from minute 1 to minute last. They know they've only got 3 laps.
Yeah, exactly right. They need to make sure that they capitalise on those early stages, capitalise on others' mistakes, and take advantage when they can. Drivers have done that. We've got some big movers already. Nils Kosh already up 7 spots. Gratson already up 9 spots. So some big movers already. Drivers really struggle with these cold temperatures out on track, getting those tyres up to temp in this early stage. Front of the field, not able to break away as much. There was a fairly big gap, the front 3 to back to the rest, but that's closed up very, very quickly. There's nothing between the front of the field at all. There's a little bit of movement back in the field.
Yeah, Gianni Vecchio on the recovery drive for Pure. Gets the move done on Alvaro Romero, and that was all the way up at the very, very dangerous Flugplatz corner. You never want to go side by side, and all of a sudden the MSI Esports car under pressure as Christopher Dambeats goes by in the Pure car as well. So Dambeats goes through, and it's a Pure train trying to make their way all the way towards this fantastic Arenberg corner. And now they'll head through the foxhole and look towards Ardenau first. Up the hill, front 4, all in a line. Berryman from Backham, from Castrolado to Matti Kaider-Sawyer. They're in 4th position. Marin Cholak finding himself up in 5th. Niels Koch there in the 6th place, trying to make every little push possible as they go through the lefts and the rights, then at Ardenau first, and now looking to the mid part of the lap. You're not going to see overtaking opportunities at the front, maybe not until you get yourself out of Kesselchen and you're looking yourself all the way towards Bravery Bend and the run-up, of course, to the fabled carousel.
So already now the top 4 have broken away a fairly big gap back to Kolak and Kosh, so they're now starting to battle amongst themselves. What these guys need to be careful of, yeah, Vecchio getting another spot, so now up into 9th, but these guys at the front, the 5th, 6th, 7th cars back, they need to be careful not to fight too hard. They fight too hard now at this stage of the race, they'll drop more and more time and be out of the draft by the time the big long straights come, so they need to be careful not to fight too hard too early in this race.
Sunrise hits then here at the Nurburgring as they make their way through the very, very difficult left-hand slow section here of track, as all these drivers now hoping that they can be in a line and salvaging as many points as they possibly can by just staying in draft. The drivers in front, Julian Rodriguez, for example, leads a massive train. Vecchio behind, Larrickson, Dambeats, Romero, Heikkinen in there, Perez, Giassi trying to stay on the back of this one, but will struggle through the next couple of sections. But now this is where the draft is going to be key. We saw that overtakes came at a premium in the Porsche Esports Supercar Series, which was going to be really, really easy to say that overtaking at the front is going to be tough, but Backham will try and close down in on Berryman and trying to stay there. Ricardo Castrolado there in 3rd position, Matti Kaider-Sawyer in 4th. All of them are hoping that they can run the gauntlet down, because if they can't get it done through this section of track, they know they've got to stay within a second for the big long straight that is the Dottinger Herve.
This 5th and 6th going at it. It's a little bit of a bump there from Kosh into the rear of Kolak. Not quite able to do it. They've lost a huge amount of time, but could see Backham look to make a move. Might not be close enough, but this battle for 5th and 6th is well and truly on. Ericsson's closing in too.
Oh, he is certainly closing in. So all these drivers know they've got to be on it. Vecchio's found his way past Julian Rodriguez as Ericsson tries to stay in there, of course, for the Black Star Racing team, trying to get through Carousel for the first time. They make their way through the long left-hander and try and pick up as much pace as possible. And Kaider-Sawyer having a very, very good run at the moment in that Simicube-sponsored car, trying to push every little bit up through these next sections. And we know Matti Kaider-Sawyer is one of the quick drivers. You talk about how quick he is, well, you've got to talk about the Finnish National Championships, always up there and always scoring very, very good results year on year.
Kosh is looking really strong here. The pace he's got definitely a lot better than his qualifying pace showed. Of course, different qualifying this round being at Nurburgring from normal races because of the length of the circuit. So the old school qualifying where you did your qualifying during the week, Kosh hasn't been able to get his lap in as good as he would like, and other drivers probably had a couple more opportunities. So his race pace looks really good, +7 early on in the race. That's pretty impressive around a difficult track with such a high strength of field.
Yeah, it's a very, very tough track. You've got to be at your level best, and this is what we are seeing from these drivers. These are drivers who have put themselves up 6,000, 7,000, 8, 9, sometimes even trying to hit 10,000. That's how good these style of drivers are. They have to be at their best every single time they get out onto a racing surface, and they have to be flawless in terms of incident. They have to be flawless in terms of so much. What a great second section, though, to the lap that Peter Berryman has had through the Beloff S. He's almost got the 1 second breakaway margin that he needs over Mac Backham in second position, who uses all the curb before heading to this mini carousel. This very tough left-hander, very deceptive in terms of how much turn you need in. And now you head yourself through this fantastic right, which leads yourself onto the Dottinger Herb for one of 3 times here today. This is the last bastion for drivers to go and make overtakes, and Kim Eriksson may just be in place to get 2 for the price of 1 on Kosh and on Cholak in front, but Dottinger Herb time, it's time to use the draft.
Here we go, this is where we're going to see big moves. Such a key point of the lap, making sure you get your momentum down to this straight, chance to get your breath. Kosh is going to get another move done, and Eriksson could get both here, as you said. Very, very big chance of getting both. With a weaving to try and take advantage of this draft. This is going to be a bit messy here, though.
It is. You've got to really slow it down through these sections, and Eriksson knows that better than anybody else. Hits the brakes first and has no worries through the lefts and the rights, side by side behind. Larrickson around the outside of Julian Rodriguez and makes the move sorted. So that is very well done in terms of that move. Jeff Giassi that's made the move on Adria Perez as well in the background. So that changes the positions, but they still will have that opportunity to fight all the way down to turn number 1, this Mercedes Arena section. And look at this from Eriksson, all the way to the inside, almost tyres on the grass, trying to slam the brakes on, trying to get it through. Can he slow it up? No, he can't. And suddenly taking the position will be Gianni Vecchio, who will now try and go around the outside of Marin Cholak. In all of that, Matti Kaidasoya nearly got by Ricardo Castroledo, couldn't manage it, but all of a sudden, Vecchio finds himself on the rear, and he is driving like a man possessed for Pure Racing Team.
He looks really strong now. He's found a little bit more momentum after that incident. Turn 1, lap 1. Now back almost to where he started in 3rd, now back up to 7th. Remember, he was down in about 17th, so he's gaining very, very quickly. His pace looks very, very strong. He might be able to get back up to 5th position, and then he'll be hoping for a mistake from that front 4.
Yeah, and those front 4 have been flawless so far in this race. Berryman, Backham, Castroleta, Kaidasoya as they go through. Vecchio, no chance at the Dunlop hairpin then to get around Marin Cholak, who very much again seems to be 1 cut ahead, as I've just seen an overtake as well. It's Carl Janssen in the core racing car who's got past Jeff Giassi and has done very well, and that is, of course, that beautiful core sim racing machine. Lovely livery there in the white and the orange as well as they go through. But again, it is Marin Cholak in this race who is very much the cork in the proverbial bottle as they get themselves out of the big right-hander and they head themselves up through Ad Van Bogen and look over towards that very, very fast chicane, 3rd gear, which is not necessarily the easiest place to go out and make the move. Vecchio, again, cannot find that opportunity, but being a driver who comes from Club Diach, he does know that this is one of the few places that he gets a whole lot of practice on.
Yeah, one of the more common circuits those guys practice at, so they'll be well and truly used to doing laps around this circuit. Cholak really struggling. Now, you can see Kosh, since he's got through, he's just absolutely broken away, almost a second ahead through the GP part of the circuit. So some great pace at the moment from Kosh, and Cholak really struggling. He might lose a couple before the end of this lap, and he could almost come into the battle from behind as well. He could find himself losing another 2 or 3, maybe even 4 or 5 spots by the end of this one.
Well, he's got 2 laps to hold on, but it's 2 very, very long laps to say that we're still probably about 45 kilometers out from the end of this race. It pretty much tells you all you need to know about how long this has gone. Our casualties, we've lost 4 on the opening lap. That's Alex Arana, Dominic Stave, Pashalis Kyrgyz, and also Josh Thompson as well, who are all out of this race and will not be scoring many points at all for their iRacing Hall for qualification for the Porsche Esports Supercup Championship. And that is going to be very, very vital, because there are drivers here, Jay, in other splits who will be picking up victories, picking up second places, who will be scoring points not too dissimilar, slightly less, but not too dissimilar to the drivers in this field. If you're about 6th, 7th, you're scoring as much as the guy who wins in second split.
Yeah, exactly right. And those guys really need to try and make moves. And you see a bit of risk starting to come in now. Guys are starting to probably hear how many points are up for grabs in this race. We're hearing around about 408 for first position with a 7,500 strength of field. So huge points haul up for grabs. So Kim Eriksson and Gianni Vecchio, they were side by side for a huge amount of time, and Eriksson from that lost a bit of momentum and almost out of the draft. So he has to try and close that back up again. At the front, Berryman and Backham still within that 1 second range, but they've dropped the rest of the field behind now. They're absolutely out in front by a fairly significant margin.
And that fairly significant margin is helped to Mac Backham in the number 2 virtual racing school, Coanda Simsport machines. They head through hit, miss, hit as they go on through, and this is going to be crucial for Backham. He knows he's got Castro Lado behind as a buffer to try and go out there and attack. But the one issue that he's got at the moment is Berryman's too good. He cannot do enough on this Nordschleife section to close that gap. He's relying on that draft to stay within 1 second, and all of a sudden that gap, around 8-9 of a second, always going to be incredibly difficult to go out there and make that move done. So this is going to be a case of Matt Backham trying to hold on and maybe hoping that the Dossiger Herve and other places in the laps is going to bring himself back in. Maybe that Matt Backham needs this vehicle just to warm up ever so slightly more to attack the final lap of this race.
Or it could just be that he's hoping for Berryman to make a mistake, but we've all seen in the past that that doesn't happen all that often. So he's going to have to hope a lot more than what we're going to have to really hope to essentially to see Peter Berryman make a mistake, because he's just looked really strong ever since the drop of the green flag. We're almost we're just gone halfway through this race already. It's flying by. And, Berryman and Backham looking like they are well and truly the class of the field, but it's back on again between Vecchio and Kolak.
Oh, and Cholak now has to use all of his experience, which he's used in various series, and he misses the apex, gets the grass, and suddenly there's a freebie. Cookies! That's Gianni Vecchio's, and that's a fantastic move, and it hurts both of them in terms of their run, because Niels Koch has now dropped himself a couple seconds down the road in the Williams car. You now look at the likes of, say, Kim Eriksson, who needs to go out there and make a move. You look behind as well, Christopher Danbeats has struggled a little bit, cannot find a way past Julian Rodriguez, who's been going backwards all race long as they go through the carousel once again, and it is on for the lead, because Peter Berryman all of a sudden has lost the lead here to Mac Backham, and this happened by him missing the carousel, too hot on entry, and just like that, the worst corner in the world to make a mistake on, and he drops the lead to Mac.
Wow, we said that he was going to rely on a mistake and be hoping for it. That is very uncharacteristic. Now let's see how good Berryman is being able to get back through. Mac Backham, though, one of the hardest in the world to get past. So this is going to be a great battle. Nothing separating these two. It is on now.
It is on, a Mac attack at full force as they try and make their way through the latter half of the track, through the likes of Hohe and the other style of corners that they all have to deal with at the moment on this road, which has been a very tough challenge. Mistake I've just seen in the background, that's Joni Heikkinen struggling ever so slightly. He's battling with Josh Anderson for around about 16th, 17th, 18th place on the road. Adria Perez has struggled in this race as well. He's dropped back a fair distance as well over the course of this, but at the front, this is the key battle here. Berryman is struggling through this section. Backham able to just get on the binders so quickly, and this is a tough part of the track here around to the Stefan Bell Fest, because you leave the ground on this Nordschleife section at least 3 times during the lap.
And tyres have been such a big key to this race as well, so making sure you've got the tyres planted as much as you can to give you that momentum is so crucial. So these guys are now actually starting to close back in again, so Now that Berryman is not the lead car, Castrolado's starting to close in, so we've got a real 4-car battle as we come up with just over a lap to go. This is going to be an intense little fight all the way to the end.
Well, this is bit between the teeth style of driving. You need to be on the ragged edge through every single corner. This is not a track that you can go and get 100% perfect lap time on. This is a track you need to respect, and so many drivers do respect this Nurburgring, be it through the VLN series, be it through the likes of, say, the 24-hour that will happen sometime in about April, May-ish here on the iRacing service. They all know they've got to be at their best. Berryman unable to close that gap down as much as he would like, but he's got another straight after this that he can go out and get. Here comes Kim Eriksson, though, looking at the move here to move up into 6th place and into 7th place. Try and get this done alongside under the Bilstein Bridge, and now looking for the lefts and rights, and Cholak, door to door they go, and Cholak gives it up.
Nice move in the end there from Eriksson. We said he's been a little bit more aggressive throughout this race. We said before, side by side he was with Vecchio for a long time. We come up to complete lap 2, white flag in the air. Wow, what a race this has been so far.
It's the longest white flag in iRacing. On the brakes into turn 1, the front 4 split by 1.7 seconds on the road. Backham leads from Berryman, then it's Castrolado, then it's Kaida Sawyer as they go through. Koch under pressure for 5th. Gianni Vecchio has closed down the gap and was back all the way in about 14th, 15th place. Had the ability to claw 10 places if ever there was a recovery drive. But Gianni Vecchio has been the one to do it. Now you start using all of the track and then some. You've got 17 instant points to play with here, and that is, of course, a penalty for that. DQ limit at 25, the new system that has come in from iRacing. Defensive lines taken into the forward curve from there for Matt Backham, and suddenly Berryman looks good on the Grand Prix layout, and this is not his strength. On the brakes they go into Dunlop once again, and Backham is now under the cosh.
This is going to be an intense little fight here. Backham, no, it's going to be tough to crack Matt Backham, but anyone could probably do it. Peter Berryman, because he's looked really strong, except for that one minor mistake, and it was so minute, that mistake, but it's cost him the lead of the race. One of the biggest points haul potentially in iRacing history. Will Berryman be able to come back and take this position away? I'll tell you what, he looks very strong through the Grand Prix section, doesn't he? Might nearly have enough to get something done early on in this lap in positions we haven't seen any moves done yet.
Well, there's places like Schwedenkreuz where there could be a move up into Arenberg. He could maybe look and try and be aggressive, but Matt Backham's so aggressive over the curbs, knows exactly how to attack. Peter Berryman and Matt Backham, they've fought each other so many times before. They've fought each other in open-wheel McLaren MP430s for many a season back in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series days. Now we've moved into a Porsche format, a Porsche meta. This is where we're seeing how the differences are made. New champions coming to the forefront, like Coander's Josh Rogers, who is the overall champion going into 2020, but they head through the opening section of the lap, then of the Nordschleife for the final time. Do not count Castrolado out. Do not count Kaida Sawyer out. They've been patiently waiting, biding their time for the one place there the move is going to be done, and they know that every position then on this final lap is going to be so crucial as they make their way up to Flugplatz for the final time.
One of the spots around the circuit where you lose traction up over the hill. Lots of air, full throttle, and gaining momentum through that section is so important. If you have to get on the throttle a millisecond later, that could be enough to potentially lose you a spot. Going to stay line of stern for now, but see, all of those gaps, all three gaps between those four cars, all closing up. Hey, I'm getting nervous watching this. This is going to be an intense fight all the way to the checkered flag. Almost half a lap to go.
It's like four armies staring each other down on the battlefield. None of them daring to move at this point in time. None of them willing to show any signs of weakness as they head up through compression into the Adenauer first for the final time as they now look at the mid part of the lap. And this is where you need to be right on it and aggressive here. You've got to close up the door to a couple of tenths, and the likes of even Gianni Vecchio, 5th and 6th, will understand that with Niels Koch and try and get some moves done. We have seen a change for position. Julian Rodriguez goes backwards again. This time, it was done just before Arenberg. A bit of contact with Carl Janssen, but no harm, no foul from it. That was Rubbings Racing, and that was a good move from Janssen. He's now inside the top 10, having started today in 19th.
Yeah, one of the biggest movers. Carl Janssen up 8 positions. Kosh up 8 positions as well. So some big movers throughout this field. So it's been only one driver in the entire field. I'm sorry, 2 drivers in the entire field to still be in their starting position, which shows how much shuffling there's been for a series which we probably, or for a race that we probably thought there wasn't going to be a huge amount of overtaking. Almost every car has overtaken or been overtaken.
Yes, and most of that you can put down to lap 1, but there has been some very, very strong strategic moves, which has played into a factor into how this race has shown overtaking. In fact, quite a lot of the changes to this Porsche have been very much beneficial for overtaking for the new series. It's so great to have Porsche on board and so many companies jumping in. The BMW race that we saw just a week ago even over in Munich, that is proof that sim racing is on the up and up as they make their way through these fantastic sections, ladder links and co, as they make their way over towards Bravery Bend and so much more. This is one of the 2 prime overtaking opportunities, but Matt Backham has been fantastic in the opening section of the Nordschleife. He's managed to pull out that gap of about 8 car lengths at the moment to Peter Berryman, and that is what is hurting Apex at the moment. They cannot find that move. They cannot find that overtake as they go through the big left at Bravery. They just cannot find any way to close that gap down. Gianni Vecchio behind couldn't find the move done through Bravery Bend on Niels Koch. Koch knows how to play middle of the road driving, and these two go back in terms of team legacy. Williams taking, of course, over from Huizenveld Core Motorsports when all their drivers left very, very swiftly, one after another. Niels Koch has fought Pure so many times before and will do it all over again. Carousel for the final time.
Front 4 look like they've all got through fairly well. So Berryman may have got a bit of an advantage. He actually has. Look at the momentum. He's got that lead back down to 0.3 of a second, so he's closing back in once again. It was out to 8.5 tenths, so Berryman starting to look strong once more. Not far to go around this lap. Any of these 4 could win the race, and you can't discount Koch and Vecchio getting in there for it to steal a win, because we know that strange things can happen around this circuit. Anything could happen with these top 4. And there's every chance that they could all come together.
It's magical, it's mystical. They've got to be at their level best. They know they head to the streets in a week's time at Belle Isle, Detroit, Motor City, USA. They've got to be at their level best to get the big result first, because they know that points as drivers drop off and see their championship struggle, they do get less and less overall. They've got to get the big result first. It puts you in the best possible position, and Mac Backham, Mac Attack is there at the moment as they head through this fantastic quick section, and now it's all about setup. Castrolado fading.
He's now starting to look like he might lose his spot here. His rears definitely don't look like they've got as much grip as they did earlier. A little bit of damage to the front of the car too that we may have missed from earlier on. So possibly struggling a little bit with that. And already he's now lost a second behind Berryman, so he may be out of the draft. We'll have to try and find a little bit of pace as we've got an issue. And have a look at how far Matty's fallen off here. Something's happened here. What have we missed here?
Well, Matty Sawyer making the mistake, an issue which was not needed, and it was right at the death as well. He just got himself over the curb, slowed it down. It may be a slowdown penalty going too hard over the Bell Fest, and that puts him out of contention. Dossinger Herb for the final time, and Peter Berryman has got to claw the gap. And look at this from Backham. Forget the FIA, forget one line change. He will serpentine all the way down the Dossinger Herb, trying to break the draft for Peter Berryman, who closes up again and again and again. And it may just have to be a big, big drive, a big, big lunge that's going to get it done. Berryman closing that gap down to just 3 car lengths, down to 2, down to 1, and not close enough maybe for the move into the right and left. You've got to get the move done. Where do you go though? It's middle of the road from Matt Backham. Berryman, oh, he's over the curb, he's in the fence, and Castrolado catches him as well. Mac Attack Matt Backham survives to tell the tale and wins here at the Nurburgring. And it's all gone wrong for Berryman. He threw the lead and he's thrown vital points away. It's 1-2 for Coanda with Castroledo in second. Kyler Sawyer will pick up a podium. Vecchio fourth, Koch in fifth. And looking back to Berryman, he finishes behind Alexander Larritzen in the Altus Esports car. It's 9th place from a potential victory. He was too aggressive. You can't attack the curbs here, Jay, at the Nürburgring.
Definitely not like that. That was way too aggressive, and there was just no room to make the move there. Peter Berryman pays the ultimate price, throws away a good 120 odd points. Oh, that's a huge incident. Now, Castroledo as well, he's lucky to get away with it. Lucky it was the last lap of the race, because if there was any longer to go, we may have seen Castroledo out of the race as well.
Well, it was absolute madness, but everybody across the line here at the Gesamtsrecke layout, here at the Nürburgring, 2 circuits combined, old and new, and this is how classified results ended out. Mac Backham picks up the victory after taking the race lead at the carousel in the middle part of the race after Berryman's mistake. He survives to tell the tale and he gets himself the big victory, 3.4 seconds in the end, ahead of Ricardo Castroledo, who very nearly lost second position if it wasn't for the slowdown penalty through the Beloff S from Matti Sawyer, who ends up with the number 11 seed, getting himself third place overall. Gianni Vecchio, arguably driver of the day candidate, had a spin on the opening corner, dropped back to 15th place, but 4th position come the end. Can be very happy with that. Niels Koch ends up in 5th place with Kim Eriksson coming home in 6th. It was Marin Cholak who struggled today, really did make good progress early on, but then had to deal with defending for the longest time. 7th place only for the former WCTR driver, Alexander Larritzen, the Dane. He's improved so much from what I've seen over the last couple of years, and he's up 10 places here today. 8th place, he can be incredibly happy about. 9th will go to Peter Berryman, and he will be hurting after that. He has cost himself maybe 150, 200, maybe even 250 points with a 9th place finish. We'll have to find that out a little later on. Carl Janssen rounds out the top 10 then for the Core Sim Sport team, as they have done well. The Core Sim Racing team, sorry, I should say. Christopher Dambeats will get 11th then for Pure Racing team. It was a good, strong drive from Dambeats, but ultimately had to make his own recoveries. Julian Rodriguez, another driver who struggled today going backwards, didn't have the pace here at the Nürburgring. It's 12th place for him, with Jeff Giassi going up from 21st to 13th. Eero Tuominen in 14th place. He had to fight hard come the end because he had Adria Perez and Josh Anderson behind, 15th and 16th. Not the best day for Anderson after the opening lap. Alvaro Ramiro gets 17th. He had a spin late on, and Joni Heikkinen really did struggle. He couldn't get by come the end. The drivers who did not make it to the line: Dominic Stade, the name that I will butcher forever and a day, Pascalis Kyrgyz, and Alex Arana, and also Josh Thompson failing to make it around 1 lap's worth of racing. But Jay, an absolutely magical start to this Porsche series, a magical qualifying looking to be available, and it is Mac Backham who did absolute wonders in that race.
What a crazy race that was, but if that's what we've got for race 1, I cannot wait for the rest of the season. Bring on the next 11 weeks, because we're going to see some awesome racing. We got that around Nordschleife. What are we going to see around Belle Isle with concrete walls absolutely everywhere?
And concrete walls everywhere are going to be key. And let's not forget that a lot of these drivers know and understand that those who are maybe 8th, 9th, 10th, they have dropped points today on other drivers that they weren't even racing with. Those in the other split, second split, maybe even third split, they may have lost a couple of points to, and it's going to be crucial to gather those back up. But the streets of Belle Isle is where we will be in 1 week's time here on the iRacing Esports Network, brought to you by SimSpeed TV. And of course, you can catch so much other stuff that is going on for other races. For example, we got the final round of the Scops Championship. Will Jared Filsell pick up his title? He finished 5th in the Porsche Esports Supercup just a year ago, or just over the course of this year, and he's done well. Will we see that being a change? But Mac Backham joins us here for interview. Mac, well, let's talk about the carousel first and foremost, because it seemed like Peter Berryman had the legs on you to begin with, but ultimately it came to a place where Berryman makes one small mistake, and all of a sudden you've got control of the race.
Yeah, it was yeah, really interesting. Peter was definitely a little bit faster than me here, and he's just been really rapid all week. But yeah, when he made that mistake in the carousel, I wasn't really trying to overtake him per se in the whole race because I was kind of settling for P2 after what happened yesterday, and I didn't get any points. But yeah, when he made that mistake, I kind of had to go for it. But because of that, the guys behind also caught up in draft a little bit, so that was a little bit annoying. But I just tried to do my best, try to push as hard as I can. I knew the draft was going to be extremely strong, so I just tried to create enough of a gap going onto the back straight by just really pushing in the final few sectors. And well, I guess it just about worked.
And well, let's talk about the Mac Backham way because you were weaving left and right as much as you could down the final straight, the Dossinger Herve, but ultimately it was Berryman's mistake that got you able to scamper away. What goes through your mind when you see a driver go off behind you and you're just there in the zone, concentrating, knowing that it's a clutch moment in the race, but ultimately it goes away from the driver behind and you've got a three, 4 corners to safety?
Yeah, I just spoke a little bit here. I think he thought I brake checked him, but we just have a little bit of a different line there. So I brake a little bit earlier and I really ease into this corner because I was always struggling with lockups into the final turn. And then when I saw like a crash behind me, I figured it was him because he was the only car that was really close. And then from there on, I just really started to coast into the corner because at that point, I didn't really think I had much to lose in those final few seconds. So yeah, I just really coasted there, and well, I'm just really glad to get the win today because yeah, this is the first time I had to drive the Nordschleife. So before I had to practice for this, I never drove it. So overall, I'm just really happy to just be on pace here.
And well, you're very much on pace, but we've got to talk more than just pace because if we look at what's going to happen in a week's time for you, you head to a very, very strong circuit for a number of reasons. It's one of the few street circuits on the iRacing calendar. We head to Detroit Belle Isle, which of course is a completely different kettle of fish in many respects to this Nurburgring track, but holds some similarity. How do you feel that you're going to be attacking this style of race moving forward, knowing that the lap's going to be a little longer? You know that you've got to be in a position to go out there, be aggressive, look to make moves around a track, which very much does not have many places for overtake.
Yeah, I think I mean here obviously qualifying really mattered. I think almost everyone finished roughly where they qualified if it's a clean race. But I think for Detroit, that's going to be even more the case. I don't really think there's one big racing move you can put on and you can overtake someone. And if someone makes a mistake there, it's not like you can pass easily as well because there's not a whole lot of room to play with. So I think qualifying is definitely going to be key there. And yeah, if I can be top 3 in qualifying on a race like that, that would be great. We don't have the whole week to do that. So maybe that will play in my favor. Maybe it won't. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, really looking forward to Detroit. Love that track. So
So it's going to be absolutely fantastic for you. But of course, for all of the drivers that you have in the legendary stable, that is, of course, Virtual Racing School Coanda SimSport. Shout out sponsors who gets it done for you.
yeah, just want to thank our my team and our partners, so Virtual Racing School, SimCrap, VTech, Antwerp Design, and Joel Real Timing, and of course the guys for practicing with me today, so Ricardo, Pash, Yoni, Sage. They really did an awesome job helping me with everything this week. So yeah, Martin as well. Pretty much that.
Well, massive thanks then as Mac Backham picks up the big victory that he so desperately needed. He got exactly everything that he wanted. Peter Berryman, will have a very quick word with him because he was right up there at the very, very top for the longest time. Peter, it all fell apart around lap 2 at the carousel. What happened?
I don't really know. I think a bit RNG in that corner. I went into the corner, everything seemed fine, and for whatever reason, I hit a big bump on the front. I must have just caught the curb wrong, and it pushed me up top. And once you're up top, you're kind of screwed. There's no coming back.
And let's talk about how qualifying went. You found yourself in a perfect position. You put in the time, you put in the effort, you got the qualifying result that you wanted and went out and attacked the race from the front. But it came down to the final lap. Overtaking is always at a premium in these Porsche vehicles. You had a race in the Esports Supercup earlier on in the year. But let's talk about that final couple of corners because you get yourself caught up on the curb, caught out by the braking marker, which Backham used, and ultimately it cost you 7 positions.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I only lost really. Well, I would have only gained 3 points over the previous race, but going down the back straight, I knew that I think the delta to pass someone was roughly maybe 6, 7 tenths you could get side by side. So coming out of the last corner onto the long straight, I was maybe point 0.4, 0.5, something around there. So I guessed that I would have him, but yeah, once the weaving started, which is a bit on the limit, a bit dirty if you ask me. I think it was a bit over the top, the amount of weaving that was done. But yeah, when I got close, I knew I wouldn't pass. But going into the braking zone, Mac braked probably 100 meters earlier than the normal braking point for that corner, which completely caught me off guard. And yeah, I tried to avoid him more than anything, but kind of killed myself at the same time.
Well, you know that other races has really helped your points haul. You've got a nice backup in the bank. You head to Belle Isle in what is going to be a week's time. It's a very tough circuit. It's one of the newest circuits on the iRacing service. How are you going to change your mind from a track which is narrow in the sense of it's a legendary track to narrow in the sense of it's a street track?
Yeah, it's going to be super tough. I haven't done too many laps there. So yeah, I'll have a lot of work to do to get prepped for that. The laps I have done, it's all about keeping it out of the walls, really. I don't think there'll be too much overtaking done there. So all about qualifying and then making no mistakes.
Well, qualifying and making no mistakes is something that goes hand in hand with Peter Berryman. 9th place, though, won't be exactly what he was wanting. But Jay, final thoughts as we take ourselves away from the Nurburgring, head ourselves over in just a week's time towards the magical, magical Motor City and, of course, Detroit Belle Isle.
Yeah, bring on Detroit, because that was an incredible race, and I think we're going to see even more action when we get there. I think we're going to see some big late lunges and a little bit more desperation when we get there, as well as drivers try and capitalise on the concrete walls and force others into more unnecessary errors. It's going to be an interesting race either way.
It certainly will. And of course, a massive thanks to everyone who's been helping us behind the scenes here at SimSpeed TV, as well as a big thanks to iRacing, who again put on magical championships time and time again. But it is 1 week's time we look at towards Belle Isle. And of course, who at Detroit will become human, who will become a god, and who will find themselves at the very top. You can catch so much more than just that, though, here on the iRacing Esports Network, especially tomorrow. Same time, almost same place, maybe a little bit earlier, because the finale of Scops is coming to town at Road America. Make sure you tune in for everything that goes on from all the partners here on the iRacing Esports Network. To Race Sport, LSR TV, Podium, you got the likes of GSRC, Apex Racing TV. Make sure you check all of those out. And make sure that you join us in a week's time. We will see you very soon as Backham shines, Mac attack at full force.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got really outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?